I've been a big fan of Smith & Wesson revolvers for a very long time. I grew up shooting the classic K-frame guns and have carried a lot of J-frames over the years too. However, this video is on the 686, one of the early L-frame guns. In this video, I'll cover some of the history of the L-frame, what the 686 is, and my opinions on this gun. So what do I think about the last of the true combat magnums? The Smith & Wesson L-frame is a creation of the late 1970s. To make a very long story short, the idea behind the L-frame was to take the classic K-frame and beef it up for shooting hotter ammo. Essentially, we've got the K-frame grip and something closer to an N-frame size for the cylinder and the barrel. I'll link an excellent article from the Revolver guide down below, but the desire for the L-frame came from people breaking Model 19s and Model 66s with hot .357 mag. The guns were having issues, especially around the forcing cones and cracking the barrels there, which is why this was made. Now obviously there's a lot more behind that, but go check out the Revolver Guy article on that topic. At the start of the production of the L-frames, Smith & Wesson released the blued 586 and the stainless 686. What I have here is a 686 from the first series of the gun. The 686 No Dash ran from 1981 to 1986, and this gun is from that time frame. Now there wasn't a recall very early on with the L-frames, and this gun was fixed as part of that. As such, it has an M suffix marked into it, and I'll show that here as some rolled in footage. At the core of it, the 686 is a medium frame .357 Magnum revolver. It holds 6 rounds and has a very beefy cylinder to better hold up to the recoil and the power of .357 Magnum. It has an adjustable rear sight, a square butt frame, and a full underlug barrel. I bought this gun back in summer 2024 for $600 at a local pawn shop. It came with some big old Pachmayr grippers, which I promptly swapped for the VZ G10 grips that you see here on the gun. I prefer these for the feel in the hand and also just that they kind of drag less on my clothing when I'm drawing the gun. And I'll link an article I wrote about grips and what I like on revolvers, which you can find down in the description below. This gun being an old L-frame means that the build quality is a bit better than the current production guns. The raw machining is better than the new guns, there's no metal injection molded parts on the gun, and of course, there are no internal locks on the gun. I've not modified the inside of the gun at all, but the double action and single action trigger presses are pretty fantastic as they are. I'm rolling in some B-roll right now with the weights, but this is a very comfortable gun when it comes to the trigger pull and the general feel of the gun. It just feels better than most of the 686s I've handled. As for my time with the gun, all I've done is swap the stocks to these VZ G10 ones, paint the front sight to make it better for quick shooting, and then shoot the thing. Speaking of shooting, how does this 686 perform in my hands? Well, the 686 is a pretty sweet shooter. I've not put a ton of ammo through it compared to a lot of my other revolvers, but I have fed it a steady diet of fairly warm .357 Magnum ammunition. Backing up a little bit though, with 38s like the 158 grain lead round nose service load, this thing feels like a mouse fart gun. It is very, very light shooting with those 158 grain service loads. They're very comfy, it's a very pleasant experience. With 357 Magnum, like this normal 158 grain stuff that I've got here, it is a whole lot hotter, it is a little bit less pleasant, but it's not miserable. I'd rather be shooting this stuff out of this launcher here than something a bit smaller. The G10 stocks on the pistol do certainly dig into the hands a little bit, but for me, I like that because it just gives me much better control over the gun, especially with that hot ammo. As for my performance with the gun, I've not got a ton of recorded drills with it. I got this gun right before I had my major automobile accident last year, and as such, I didn't shoot it a ton last year. I have shot it a fair bit in 2025 though, and I roll in some footage right now of some tests and some build drills with the gun. .55, shot in 549. It's not flat. Now, talking the performance and things I like and dislike about the gun, my biggest issue is really just the size of this gun. When the gun is in your hand, it honestly feels very, very good. It feels fantastic. However, when I'm shooting the gun from the holster, that's a whole different story. A 4-inch L-frame shot from appendix makes you feel like Jack Nicholson and Batman whipping out a giant gun. Reloading the 686 is a bit strange. This is a 6-shot gun, but with all of that extra meat between the charge holes here in the cylinder, I find that actually lining up my speed loader to get rounds in there is just a little bit awkward compared to the K-frames that I've owned and shot that have thinner walls for the chambers. For my technique of reloading the L-frame, I use the Masad Ayub stress fire technique. I'll roll in some footage right now, but I found that this gun, even with good speed loaders like the Safariland JComp 2s, it's just an awkward reload. I've had better luck with my K-frames than I have with this, but it's just part and parcel with this being such a big honking gun. Now, I will say that one thing I have run into is that this gun was part of that 1991 recall, which was like a sticky cylinder recall. This gun does occasionally have a sticky cylinder feeling, but I found that that tends to happen if you haven't dry fired the gun in a while. If the gun is being shot live, I find that getting the rounds out and opening the cylinder is pretty easy. But in dry fire, I find that sometimes if you're just opening and closing the cylinder a bunch, you have to give the gun a dry fire press to actually be able to open the cylinder again. The recall fixed it, but I think it still has some of those kind of inherent kinks in there. Talking reliability, this gun has been totally flawless since I got it. Every time that I've had ammo in the gun and tried to shoot, the gun went bang. The only issue I've run into was the rear sight coming loose. With these older Smith & Wesson revolvers, they use 2 screws to secure the rear sight, and your rear screw is actually your elevation adjustment for the rear sight too. And it's not too surprising that this came loose. When I first got it, I hadn't Loctited it or anything, and all of the 357 mag that I've put through this gun just loosened it up. A little bit of thread locker on both the screws, and then it did just fine. I managed to get the gun re-zeroed and it didn't come loose for that last couple of rain sessions that I had with the pistol. In the media, the 686 has gotten a whole lot of love too. From Miami Vice to Lord of War, and from the silver screen to TV and video games, the 686 has certainly gotten around. In the real world, the 686 has been a popular gun too, serving with a lot of police officers, concealed carriers, people who want to do home defense with a revolver, hunters, everything out there. But it was also part of the infamous Miami-Dade FBI shootout back in 1986 too. Overall, the 686 is just a really solid shooter. If you want a fun range gun, match gun, or a revolver for handgun hunting, the 686 should fit the bill. The older guns are more preferable to the new guns due to Smith & Wesson's massive quality control issues, and I could easily recommend an older L-frame 686 or 586. If you want a medium frame revolver to launch 357 Magnum from, a 686 really is hard to beat. If you wanted to go bigger, I would recommend the Model 27 and Model 28s, or a lot of the other end frames. But for me, the 3 or 4 inch 686 is a really solid gun. However, this leads to the end of the video where I tell you that I don't think the 686 is the gun for me. I really do just prefer a good old K-frame. They're pretty similar in size, but the Ks just do better coming out of a holster for me and are more svelte for my kind of use. A stubby 686 might be on my short list, like a 2.5 inch gun, but as it currently sits, I'm going to get rid of this gun and just keep shooting my K-frames and my J-frames. So what do you think of the Smith & Wesson 686? Is it a gun that you love or one that you are less warm on? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and massive thanks to our financial supporters of the channel. If you'd like to financially support the channel, I've got the Patreon linked down below, and you can join as a channel member there too. See you in the next video!